Hey guys, Lana here. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different on my channel. I'm going to be reviewing the Simplicity pattern in 1426. Now, this is what I made, which is going to be on this pattern right here, would be pattern A, as well as shown on the model. I just wanted to review this, give you guys a little bit of an idea what you're going to be expecting with this pattern, how good it is, and how I feel about it. Now, there were a lot of firsts for me with this pattern in particular. The reason I chose to do A is simply because there was not a lot of work with it. You did not have to deal with interfacing and extra things like that. There's just the fabric and the lining. And one of the first things that I've done that I have not ever done before is sew darts and sew pleats. So that was a good learning experience, but as you can see, the pleats on the top came out very symmetrical, very nice, and the darts on the side also look great as well. So that was not hard. The instructions were pretty good as far as that. One thing I will say about this pattern though is I've noticed this from a lot of blogs on this particular pattern and a lot of videos on this particular pattern. I'm sure if you guys are watching my video, you've seen the other video on this as well. It's just a little bit too big for your size. Now, this pattern is very diverse as far as sizing goes, but basically I have a 34-inch bust and I wear D, double D, it just depends. And this pattern made my garment a little bigger than I would have liked it to be, but you know, it's just a little bit looser than I would have liked it to be, and that might be my fault, I'm not sure, but I did follow the pattern to the exact instructions. Another thing about this pattern I would definitely consider before you decide to buy it or decide to sew it. In my opinion, I really don't think that this pattern is for smaller breasted women. And the reason I say that is because this pattern is really made for someone with larger breasts, I would say, just because there are pleats on here to basically make it more comfortable for larger breasts. There's also darts going down the side. Both things that would not be so flattering on a woman with smaller breasts. It would most likely make them look deflated and stuff. I've seen this pattern be made by a lot of smaller breasted women, and if you want to go ahead and do this and rock your shit, girl, go ahead and do that. I'm just saying it might look like your boobs are smaller than they are or deflated due to the steps in the pattern. If you wanted to go ahead and cut those steps out, that might be something you can do if you have smaller breasts. Another thing I would like to go ahead and point out as far as errors in this, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the good stuff later, but I just wanted to get the negative and end on a good note. There are buttons in the back. I'm sure you guys can see in the back there are buttons right here. Now, I saw the other girl go ahead and talk about hers on YouTube. I'm talking about the other video. She went ahead and said that her buttons had to be placed over to the side because the garment was too big, which mine ended up being a little too big as well, but not around this bottom area, just more so the whole thing as one. In the back right here, there was not a lot of room for these buttons to fit properly with my bust measurement. So there was about 1 inch where you were able to put these buttons in, so 1 inch overlapping, which would be fine, and I think it looks great because it's in the middle, but one of the problems with that is since there's a lining on the edge of this fabric, and since the hem of the fabric is folded over, it's a very thick piece to work with. You're working with a lining, a hem folded over, and having to put a button in there is just such a mess. It was so hard for me to open up the buttonhole after I had sewn it, just due to basically the buttons not being able to go a little bit over. So if I could adjust something about this pattern, I would cut these a little bit longer so I could place the buttons maybe on the 2nd inch over, not the 1st inch. That's one thing. Also, if you are a larger breasted woman, I will go ahead and point this out. So after the garment was sewn and I tried it on and everything, it was really weird in this area and looked super weird because I'm sure all of you larger breasted women have had to deal with the button problem where it's pushing and the button kind of shows the open area. So in the pattern, it does not tell you to sew this part shut. So this is actually not exactly the pattern. That was the only thing I did change though. So right here, I did have to go ahead and sew that part shut, which is not a big deal. It's just you could see my boob from the inside, from the side view, and it also, I felt, made everything fit a little bit differently just from this part laying and this part being on the inside. So now that you have that perfect triangle sewn, the breasts are even, everything looks good, and everything is shut as well. So if you do this pattern, I definitely recommend taking that extra step. Okay, so my last and final thing that I have a problem with this pattern is the instructions. Now, you guys might be able to do this completely differently, but some problems you're going to be running into when making this pattern. The instructions specifically on the lining, very vague, very terrible. There's really a lot of confusion and lack of illustration as far as what you're supposed to do with the lining, so there's a lot of points in this pattern that you're going to be guessing. As well as, I'm sure you guys can see, it's sort of a bias tape that wraps around into a tie on the neck. That part was very confusing as well. I do think that I did it properly though, and if you guys want to go ahead and email me and ask me any questions if you decide to do this pattern, I am more than happy to go ahead and do that for you. Also, I do understand in my fanny pack video, apparently the pattern's gotten taken down, so if you guys want measurements for that, go ahead and email me as well, and I'd be more than happy to give that to you. Okay, so now we are going to be talking about the positives of this pattern. Okay, so not only is this extremely vintage, but it's just super cute. It's adorable, and I think that this would be a great fabric to use to make this pattern if you are considering it. It's just a black and white polka dot pattern, very vintage. It might be fun to do this in a fun color like yellow or a buttercream color or possibly cherries. I think sticking with the vintage look for this one would be beautiful. Also, if you wanted to turn this top into a bodice, I think that'd be very cute as well. But everything came out very great. I love these straps up here in this gorgeous cut. I love the darts on the side, as well as the buttons going down the back and the tie. Everything looks so great, and I really love how it turned out at the end. And the only complaints I have about this really would be the ones that I told you about, which are very overlookable and something that you'll probably run into with a regular garment. So would I make this again? Of course I would. I would love to have this pattern in every color. Would I do any of the other patterns on this? Of course I would, especially that one. I would love to try that one. Probs not that, and probs not that, because I don't do bandeaus. I'm sure you larger breasted women understand why. But other than that, I think this came out great. It looks so pin-up, so cute, and yeah. So if you guys like this pattern review video, definitely let me know in the comments down below. If you want me to review other patterns, yeah, just let me know.